All right, the good news is it's 10:30, and believe it or not, it'll probably only take about 15 more minutes. All right, we're almost done. Now, I did make a change in here. So what I did was in this out of range exception, I put this non-existent book entered, and then I put in the message and returned. Okay, so if you want to put that in, I'll give you a second to, but I'm going to add a second catch underneath that in just a second. And that's going to finish this routine. So again, this will be the case that if I put in a number that's less than 0 or greater than the number, the count that I have in there, it'll say non-existent book entered, it'll write out the system message, and it'll just return. Does that make sense? But what if I put in something non-numeric? That's not going to catch this, that won't catch it with this. That's a format exception. So I also want to catch a format exception. And in that case, very similar rather, I'm just going to change the message. I'm going to say just non-numeric input. I don't know, maybe that's not good enough, maybe that's okay, I don't know. An FE. And I've got my breakdown below that, and that's it. So that's going to handle all of my error cases. I'm not going to put a lot more comments in there because I put the right lines in. So it should say right here, non-existent book or non-numeric input, so it should have that. So literally all that's left is our checkout, which, believe it or not, is going to be like a grand total of 3 or 4 lines, and then we're finished. But before we do that, and I'm giving you a second to put this in if you want to, I'm going to run it, and I'm going to try to generate these errors. Why? Just to make sure they're handled correctly. All right, so let's save and run it again. Again, I'll put in 2 books. So 1, Moby Dick, Charles Dickens, $100. Another one, Christmas Carol, also Charles Dickens, and we'll say $75. Okay, so those are both in there now. As you can see, that's good. Now let's see if we can add one of each one of them to the shopping cart. So 2, it says you've chosen to do this. Here's the current inventory. Well, what if I put in something out of range? All right, I'm going to put in here 73. It says non-existent book entered. Specified argument was out of range of the valid value. So that caught that correctly. All right. And let's see. So I'm going to try it again. 2. And I'm not going to put anything in there. So what book number do you want to buy? How about this? Who knows? Now it's the non-numeric input, and input string was not in the correct format. So before it was specified argument was out of range, and this one is input string is not in the correct format. All right. So that appears, at least, as far as I can tell, that it's handling it, but let's try this. Let's buy one of each book. So please enter so I'll put in a 2. There's my inventory. I'll buy one of book 0. There's what's in my inventory. In fact, let's buy another of book 0. So now I've got 2 Moby Dicks in my inventory. Do another 2, and let's buy 3 copies of A Christmas Carol. So I now have 2 copies of Moby Dick, 3 copies of A Christmas Carol. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, if this was a, quote, real application, unquote, we'd probably be getting this stuff from a database, and we'd be adding it to a database. All right. We're not there yet though. So I'm going to do a 0 because I'm done right now. And I've got to put in my case 3. So my case 2 was adding a book to the shopping cart. My case 3 is checkout. Okay? And literally, this whole thing, other than the break we already have in there, it's 2 right lines. And we're done. All right? So the first one is a right line. And I've got, you chose a 3 to check out your purchases. Okay, so that's the first line. That's fine. So right now, if we put in a 3, that's all that's going to happen. I'm not going to run that. You'll have to take my word for it. All right? But I'm going to put in one more right line. And I'm going to put in your total cost of items. Guess what? We've already written a routine to do that. And that routine is bs.checkout to string with currency format. And we come to the end. We're going to check it in just a minute, but it should be correct. Now, I don't think I blew anybody away with this example, and I didn't mean to. But hopefully, you've got a little bit better understanding of what goes into this. And hopefully, it'll be even a little better tomorrow when we go back and try to rewrite this as a GUI app. All right. So let me save this and let me run it. I'll come right back to it. So if you're still typing, don't worry about it. But I'm going to come in here. Let's just add him again. Moby Dick. So I've now got 2 books here in the inventory. Let's attempt to put them both in the shopping cart. 0, 1. I've got 1 of each in the shopping cart. Let's try to put in a couple more. All right, so I now have 3 copies of A Christmas Carol and 1 copy of Moby Dick. 100, 160, 220. It should be 280 if I did this correctly. You chose a 3 to check out your purchases. Total cost of items is 280. Okay? So again, ideally what this showed you, A, how to create a class library, B, how to populate a class library, and C, how to create a console interface that will work with both of these classes. All right? Now, one more thing. We put a 0 in here to get out. Okay? If you remember, because I told you I was going to tell you this, and I didn't, so I'm going to right now. Where are we? Here. Which book number do you want to buy? We could have come in here when we did this, all right, and someplace in here we're putting in the book number. All right, so where is it? Instead of putting this in and showing, for example, what's in there and having it be 0, 1, and 2, we could have said there LCV plus 1 instead of LCV. The problem is we're doing work later on in the program that's depending on the right order. So then you start doing in here, instead of like LCV right there, you put in like LCV by -1. Then inside of your brackets, when you're working with these different elements, now what you're doing is you're doing math inside of there. That can be really problematic to do that. As with everything, it's all trade-offs. All right? I'm not saying, again, that this is the only way that this could be written. By no means. This could have been written in a lot of other ways. But hopefully you've got an example in here now that you're able to use, and with the example that we'll go through tomorrow, one that you'll be able to use when you start working on your homework. All right? So tomorrow, I have no idea. I haven't even written it yet. I'm going to rate it tonight when I get home. So I don't know how long this is going to take. I don't know if it's a bigger program or a smaller program. I don't know. But it is going to give me a chance to show you a few things too. Some of which we've talked about, some of which we have not talked about. The interface will be fairly simplistic. I'm just telling you that right now. Anybody have any questions on anything that we've gone through? Anything that doesn't make sense? Anybody need me to go up or down in the code here? So that I'm taking it for granted that you all understand how to do this. What I'm thinking of doing, because I haven't even looked yet to see what they have for a test in this. I have absolutely no idea. All right? But what I am thinking is I might test you over 2 periods and have you do something like this, where in the first period, all right, you would create a console app and you'd do a class library, and then in the second period, you would convert that into a GUI. And by doing that and giving you 2 periods, if you ran into problems on the first day, you'd have the second day to try to fix that and still do the other one. See what I'm saying? Now, I have no idea. If it turns out that their test is totally different, I might have to change my thinking. But right now, that's the way I'm thinking of doing it. All right? So we have about an hour left. So if you're up to date on all of your homework, start looking at the assignments. Again, I'm promising you, what I am going to do is probably Sunday around noon, I'm going to be grading. I don't know how long that'll take. But everything that's turned in by noon on Sunday should be graded by Monday morning. You should be able to go look in your inside Rankin and find out what it is. Some of you are a bit behind. Some of you are quite behind. All right, if that's the case, I can still give you some credit if you get stuff in. All right, but this is what? So you've had homework for 1 through 8. And I don't remember if these are 25. I think they're 25 or 50 points each. Let's say 25. So that's 8. That's 200. Plus we did 11. And now this is 12. That's already 250 points. So if you're not turning work in, that's 2.5 tests you've gotten zeros on, for lack of better words. All right. The homework, I'm hoping at least, the homework for chapter 10, all right, that homework will be due a week from tomorrow. All right. So next week, we're going to try to do at least one of those examples, whatever one I have time to do over the weekend. Probably the bank account one, but maybe we'll do one of the other ones as well. All right. And hopefully that'll get you started towards doing the homework. All right. If there are no other questions, then the rest of the period is yours.